Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Dare to Be Fearless. If you have not been following Chief Swag on social media, I'm giving you a heads up that we did a really awesome Black Friday sale. So, with the holidays coming, it is actually a very good and fun gift to give someone. So, head to the show notes of Dare to Be Fearless, and I will link more to find out about the company in there. And of course, if you don't follow Dare to Be Fearless on social media, follow it at Dare, the number 2, Be Fearless, or my own personal social media at Alexa_Curtis. So before we get into this episode, I want to, and I will put up on the screen some photos of the founder I have in today and the product that she is the co-founder of, because I know many of you guys will probably know it. So this particular product I actually got 2 years ago in Park City, and it's a journal that has, I think, really revolutionized manifesting and how people really view balance and finding their identity and their core. And Mimi is here. She's the co-founder of Intelligent Change, which is the start of the 5-minute journal and the gratitude journal, which is the thing that I purchased in Park City. And I'm really excited to talk to her about pretty much everything from the beginning of starting a company and selling it to now starting another one. So thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me, Alexa. Very grateful to be on your podcast and love the name of your podcast.
It's her daughter's name, Alexa, so I know I love that. So I have so many questions, but I really want to start from the beginning. Like, when you were growing up, did you ever think that you were going to be an entrepreneur?
I definitely knew I was different as a child. I always remember feeling like I don't belong to the circle of friends or like the community I am in. So I just always had the sense of like not belonging and knowing that I need to be somewhere else. I need to, in a way, write my own story and narrative of what life is and what success looks like. Because I was born and raised in Baku, Azerbaijan, and more or less it's the Middle East. And there, growing up as a woman, basically the narrative is you go to school, you finish school, you go to university, you get married, you have kids. And nothing wrong with any of those things, but I just knew like I had way bigger vision for myself. So yes and no. I knew that I'm gonna do something different and exceptional, but I thought it's going to be acting, if I'm honest.
I can see
which
you
is
as an
interesting
actress.
because
Yeah.
I ended up on camera, but
It's different.
doing different things,
Yeah.
doing business. But in a way, I was always the face of whatever product I was selling. Similar to what you're doing, I enjoy telling the story and being the face of and of the mission that I'm representing. So I feel like intuitively we all know it's sometimes we might listen to that voice or ignore that voice, but I think we all do feel that calling inside of us to to do something fearless.
Yeah, oh, that's cute. It's so interesting too because you are so good at being the face of the brand, and I feel like a lot of founders struggle with that, or a lot of people, especially in tech, they've got these massive companies, but they're not as good on camera, or they don't really know how to connect with the audience that way. So when you were growing up, I mean, did you have siblings? Like, what was your family like? I'm curious.
So I have an older sister who's 2 years older than me, and I grew up in a very much like low middle class Azeri family. We had very little, but we had a lot of love, which I'm very grateful for. Also, I grew up in a very turbulent time in that region. When I was born, the country that I was born in, Azerbaijan, was under USSR, so it was communism. And then communism broke down. I was 5.5, 6, and then there was a period of war, and that was scary, especially
Yeah.
for someone who is like in their formative years. So I think a lot of my later the anxiety I had to deal with came from those traumatic experiences. But at the time when you're a child, you don't realize it. You're like, oh, this is interesting. What is happening? Why is everyone running? Like bombs and explosion. Like I faced that for a very short period of time, but still it is very impactful. But overall, a very normal childhood and just freedom. I think also growing up in that part of the world, I always was inspired by the American lifestyle and like the American dream because we grew up watching American movies. However, when I grew up to North America, I realized that we actually had a lot of freedom as kids there. So since I was little, my parents were like, out you go. All the kids were playing outside. The community was always watching you. you would make mistakes, you'd fall, like bleed, like all these things would happen, but like the auntie next door would see you.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a really beautiful community feel, and I always felt safe being out without my parents since I was like 5 probably. Or my mom would give me cash and be like, go buy bread or tomatoes. I was 5, 6, 7, like around that age. So you could already walk to places on your own. And I think all those experiences also made me feel that sense of independence from an early age, because you have to make decisions when you're alone. And I feel like a lot of the courage and the fearlessness might also come from that upbringing. I never really reflected that until I got older. Like when I moved to North America, and I was thinking so big for myself, and my friends in high school, so I was around 16, they're like, oh, I just want to go get a job and work at McDonald's. And I was like, I did that when I was 16 when I first moved there. But by 17, I was like, I need a bigger dream. What am I going to do? I want to move to LA and be an actress. But I always knew I wanted to do something on my own, and something that was different. So, yeah, that was, the chapter of us immigrating to Toronto was a very difficult one. I feel like coming into North America and realizing, the dream is there, but you got to create it for yourself. Obviously, the bullying at high school, all of that came as package of being an immigrant at such a also vulnerable age of being a teenager. But I think also the challenging experiences in your life is what builds your resilience and your character. And I remember there was one occasion when I really wanted to go to the movie theater with my friends, and both my parents were immigrants. We just moved into the country, and all my friends were going to the movie theater, and I just needed like $20, and I was like, should I ask them?
What year was this?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. Like 2000 and
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
I was 17. Let's
Okay.
say, right?
Okay,
Like
okay.
I just moved there, and I couldn't ask them for money because I knew they didn't have the money. And I remember feeling so miserable and like a victim for that moment. Like, oh, how come my parents can't afford to give me the money to go to the movie theater with my friends? I'm such a loser, right? Like this narrative that, again, we can have for ourselves. Why am I not good enough? Why don't I have what I want? But then in that moment, as I was crying in my bedroom, I was like, well, I am the only one who can change the situation. So in a way, like, yes, I had to grow up very quickly. And I think a lot of the kids of immigrant families have to, because you see your parents hustling, starting from zero. Like my mom is a piano player, and she's been a teacher since 18, but she had to like go and clean houses for a period of time, because you got to do what you got to do. So again, that part of my journey was difficult, but also now in hindsight is again what built my character and resilience.
I think some of the most successful founders I've interviewed all have come from an immigrant background or have, left and gone somewhere amazing. And I think there's something that is so much deeper than even resilient about being able to start a company in a completely different place, right? Like completely out of your culture. Do your parents still live there?
No, they live in Lisbon now.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but where even is
Lisbon?
No, Lisbon I know, but
Azerbaijan?
Yeah.
So Azerbaijan, I feel like a lot of people in North America don't know. Europeans do know.
I hate that I don't know.
I got so used to explaining to everyone when I lived in Toronto when Azerbaijan was, that now when I tell people Azerbaijan, it is here, and people are like, we know where it is. So I think it depends where you're from. It's really far from North America. So it's right by the Caspian Sea. It's south of Russia. And then you have Armenia, Georgia, Turkey on the border, and Iran on the other side of the Caspian Sea. So it's like on the border of Europe and Asia, literally on the border. And you feel that, and you see that in the architecture, in everything that you experience when you go there.
So then when you were in your like high school teen years, I guess, did you end up then going to university?
So I took a year off at first because I knew that I would have to pay for my own college because my parents didn't have the money to send me off to university or college. So then I saved some money. I was working at a bank already. I ended up at a bank as a co-op student in the last year of high school because I just wanted to get out of high school. I was like, I'm not enjoying this. I'm ready to get out of this world. Then ended up being hired after I did co-op program at the bank, and was still working as a waitress and like any other job I could get, just to like
side hustle.
basically. Just to make some money to help my parents pay for the mortgage and pay for my own expenses. And then sorry, what was the question?
College.
Yes, so then I went to college for international business, and I couldn't get this, like, the scholarship is only applies if you don't have a car. I don't know why, it was so
And
silly.
where?
This was in Toronto.
Okay.
Because I was eligible to get the scholarship, but I couldn't because I had a car. But I needed a car so I could get to all my jobs.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, in my second year, I had to take accounting. And I realized unless I take extra tutoring, I will never pass it. It's just not one of those classes you can bullshit. And I remember going to my second accounting class and sitting there and it's like, what do I do? What do I do? And I realized I'll have to drop out of school because I need to go to my jobs. I literally had no time off.
What about loans?
I mean, I was taking a school loan, but it's not even that. It's just most of the money was for my rent and expenses and like helping my parents. So I made the executive decision that since I was taking international business, I kind of intuitively knew at the time that I will end up in business. I thought one day when I have my own business, I'll have an accountant. To this day, I'm not great at accounting, but thank goodness for all the accountants.
But like founders
that
don't
have
need to,
helped
you
us.
can't be good at everything, right?
You cannot.
No.
And I think that's a hard truth to swallow. And I had to do it at an early age. And I feel like, in a way, that's what makes me good at what I do because I know what I'm good at, and the rest I don't mind outsourcing. And yes, it's not perfect. Other people screw up all the time. Nobody will treat your business as much as because they don't love it as much as you do, right? So that is okay because ultimately I believe that we can achieve a lot more in groups than we can achieve individually. So I love having co-founders and I love doing things in a team.
So then you dropped out?
So I dropped out in my second year. And I was still working at the bank and the restaurant. And then this is when I started dating Alex Ikonn, who is my ex-partner, but still my co-founder. And
in Toronto.
And yes, so we were still in Toronto. We started dating, and then he eventually proposed to me. He got fired from the bank for having a side hustle. I ended up quitting the bank because I didn't like it anyways. I just stayed there because it was an easy opportunity that kind of naturally progressed. And then both of us started different ventures. I was a fashion stylist. Alex was doing social media consulting super early, like Twitter just came out. And nobody really believed in what he was doing. I was doing okay, but then I realized I don't ever want to be in a business where I'm exchanging time for money. Because in a service business, you don't really have a business.
No.
Like if you're a lawyer or a dentist or accountant, if you go on holiday, if you have a child, if for whatever reason you cannot work, you're not getting paid. And also at the time, we read The 4-Hour Work Week, which has been such an important book on our journey because it inspired us at the time to follow our own intuition and the vision we had for ourselves. And yet, in our instant community of friends, everybody either just graduated from school or was still in school or worked in corporate. And then we read these stories of these lifestyle entrepreneurs living their dream lives, traveling the world. And we just resonated with that vision. And both Alex and I, we knew we can do it. Like we just saw that this is where we're headed. But we needed the muse. And the muse in the book is basically like the idea. What is this business that you're going to create? And coincidentally, at the time, Alex proposed to me, even though we were broke. I was like, okay, yes, we'll make it work somehow. And then I was looking for hair extensions for the wedding because this is my natural hair. Like it's nice and like medium thick, but it like never grows like really thick. And you know, girls and weddings and all that. Like we want it to be quite dramatic and not everyone, of course, but that was my vision for my wedding day. And I ended up buying clip-in hair extensions, coming home, putting them in my hair, and I realized they were so thin. They just didn't blend with my hair. And I was complaining to my sister. Alex happened to be in the room. And he was just looking at us. He's like, what are you wearing? What is clip-in hair extensions? Tell me more. There was a computer in the room, and I showed him the videos on YouTube of girls just wearing random hair extensions, the before and after. Because it's such a transformational product. Like if someone like you with shorter hair puts it on, you look like a different person instantly, in like 5 minutes. And it's such an emotional product. And I remember Alex's reaction. He's like, this is amazing. Why don't we do it? And we both looked at him and we said, like, what do we know about hair? But we also both felt that magic of an idea when it's, you know, you have this bell going in your head and you can either listen to it or not. I don't know if do you know Elizabeth Gilbert?
Yeah, why?
Yeah, she
Author?
wrote this book
Yeah,
called Big Magic.
that's why. Okay.
I love that book.
Yeah.
And I often reference this book. She says ideas are not loyal. You know, they go to many people at the same
Mhm.
time because an idea is almost like a child. She wants to come through, or he wants to come through a human into the human experience, into the physical experience. And if you don't execute it, it'll go to someone else. So we did listen to the calling and to the idea, and literally from the moment of the idea coming to us to the launch of the business, it was something like 3 4 months. And also we didn't have the money, but thankfully, because we worked at a bank, I had a loan, so I had a line of credit I could use, which was 15K. Alex had a 10K line of credit, and then we borrowed 5K from his mom, who had one of those Visa checks, which was it's like it was something like don't pay anything for 6 months, zero interest,
Yeah,
but
zero
then you pay
interest.
20%
Yeah, of course.
interest.
Great.
So we looked at those checks and we're
It's the
like,
best.
okay, we have 6 months to make money,
Mm-hmm.
and we did. You know, initial investment was 30K, and in our first year we made our first million. Now, not coming
Wow,
from
yeah.
money, because both of us don't come from money. This was almost like flying to the moon, because you have to make a mental leap in your belief system to be able to attain that kind of wealth, and then remain with that wealth
Yeah.
and grow from there as well. Because then a lot of times people will self-sabotage the success that
Mhm.
they gain. So yeah, that is the story of Lexi here. That eventually grew and grew, and we just felt like that magic of like being at the right time, doing the right thing, because we didn't have any money to build this business, so we just used YouTube. We made YouTube videos.
This is before TikTok also.
Yeah, this is 2010.
So you're selling then directly even before
B2C,
Amazon.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was no, well, Amazon was around, but we were not selling on Amazon.
How were you acquiring customers then?
YouTube videos.
Okay.
So my sister and I started making YouTube
Okay.
tutorials showing girls how to braid their hair. I remember one of my biggest like viewed videos. I mean, all those videos are still there. You can look it up. It was how to do a fishtail braid. It
Okay.
got like millions of views. But I remember trying to learn how to do it, and you know, it was interesting for me.
Yeah.
It was fun. I knew like it's not something I want to do for the rest of my life. But for me, it's always important that whatever I do, I'm having fun. Because if I'm not having fun, then
Like,
what's the point, right?
Yeah.
It's got to bring you some level of joy. It has to be interesting. And yeah, it takes a lot of courage, right? Every time I would sit in front of the camera, I started on the laptop. Eventually,
Mhm.
we were one of the first influencers to use DSLR, or content creators to use DSLR cameras on YouTube. And I think that made our content stand out.
Yeah.
And but I remember every time I would sit, like I had my schedule of when I would film. I used to post 2 videos every week consistently for years.
How many years?
At least 5 6 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think 5 6 years. I think at one point I had like more than 300 videos, and I told myself that's it. I just can't do this anymore. And that's when I started like planning out. Okay,
Yeah.
we need someone to acquire us.
Yeah.
And as much as I love hair, this is not something I want to do for the
No.
rest of my life. There's so much more to me that I want to express and discover and learn. And yeah, eventually we attracted the right buyer and sold the business after 8 years of him. So yeah, more or less was 2018.
Back me up a second to when you were all the side hustles, and you didn't come from any money, and you're doing all these things. What was getting you through those moments where you're like trying to decide what to do next, and knowing you hadn't finished university, so there wasn't necessarily any security,
Yeah.
and like going to a corporate job type of thing?
I mean, I could have always gone back to the corporate job because I had one. I kind of hacked the system because I got in straight from high
Yeah.
school. And I remember again, a lot of my friends who went to college then ended up working the same job I had at 18, 19.
Yeah.
But I again, this is just to whoever is listening, there are always shortcuts in life. You just have to find them. You have to look for them. So I hacked the system, and I was getting paid way more than anyone in my age group. And again, those are the people who grew up in that country. So again, I was thinking in my head, how interesting that everything is about a story you tell yourself. If you tell it yourself, a story that, oh, after I graduate high school, I need to go and work at a fast food restaurant, and only then I can go to college, and only then I can. no, you can get, you go work somewhere for free. I always tell everyone, even when I worked as a fashion stylist, I went into the agency that I wanted to be represented by, and I told them I want to work for free as an intern. Don't pay me anything. I don't care. I'll like get you coffee. I'll organize all the cabinets, and that's what I did for a month or two. And then they saw how eager I was to prove myself, and then they gave me a paid job. And eventually, I ended up working with my favorite fashion stylist, who told me, "Don't do this. In 10 years, you'll be doing
It's
the
hard.
same thing."
Yeah, it's very hard.
And I was like, "Don't tell me this. You're crushing my dreams
Yeah.
of being a fashion stylist." But I'm so grateful she told me that, because she was right. Her name is Anya Shore, and I love her. I still keep in touch with her years later. So, yeah, I think it's just so important to, again, have a bigger vision for yourself and dare to try it out, because what's the worst that can happen? Again, in my case, I knew that at one, like, I'll get any other job. Like, I can always go back to where I was. But what will happen if I never try? Because for me, real failure is not that you're going to try something and it's not going to work out. It's that you're going to be old and dying, and you're going to look back at your life and you're going to say, "Oh, I wish I would have done that, but now it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have told that person I liked them, or I went for that job opportunity, or started that business, or moved the country that I felt so passionate about living in, but I didn't because I was scared." So, yeah.
So were these kind of internal thoughts that you were telling yourself? And you're quite young. I mean, how old were you when you started?
So
The
Luxy Hair was started when I was 24.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you were working then in the regular job at this time.
I quit, yeah. So I quit at 22, 23. Then I did the fashion styling for a year. And then I was like, no, I don't want to be in a service business. And then around 24
Do
is
you
when we started Luxy Hair.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, because so many people, the problem is these thoughts that you're
Mhm.
saying that like it
Yeah.
can't come to fruition with them. So
Yeah.
that's why they stay in a job they hate,
Yeah.
because they see someone like you say this, but then they're like, I can't attain this.
Mhm.
So how did you start to train yourself to believe these things, or you always just had this intuition?
I think I've had the intuition, but it doesn't mean that you're not scared in the moment. Like, I remember, for me, the biggest fear was to go back to the corporate. And to anyone who is listening, I don't think you have a lot of corporate people listening.
No,
Like,
no,
you
people
never
who are
know.
corporate and want to
But
leave
not
their
to this
job.
corporate,
Yeah.
right? Like, some people love it. If you
Sure.
love it, it makes you happy, great. Because when you have your own business, also something that you learn is that you never stop working. Right? Like, this is your baby. You think about it 24/7. Even on holidays, you're in the sun, getting your tan, but you're like, "Oh, I had an idea. I need to write it down." It's exciting, but it's also exhausting. But for me, corporate was not a place where I felt like myself. Like, again, I didn't fit in. That whole same thing from when I was a kid. I didn't fit in any schools. I didn't fit in most environments. So corporate was just another place like that. And I remember taking breaks and going to the bathroom and like literally looking at myself in the mirror and having this like existential panic attacks, like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Like, this does not resonate. And I think, let me rephrase that. I don't think, I know. I know that all of us have that internal feeling. How do we know? It's how we feel in our body. A lot of us are disconnected from our bodies. But if we make the time to pay attention to the feelings and the emotions that we're feeling in our stomach when we're at our job, when we're with certain people, it's either like a warm, good feeling, or it's like repulsive feeling. And I am blessed that I was connected to that feeling, and it was like inducing anxiety for me to be in this corporate job where I felt like what I think and what I can give doesn't really matter. I mean, I still worked with people, and part of me was happy because I love people and I love serving people, and I was doing that day to day in my job. I was helping people with their finances. But at the same time, again, I felt like there was more, and it can be in this constrained system. I want to break all the rules and make them myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at one point you realize you're just not employable anymore.
So what's one thing you would say to someone who's working a corporate job and wants to leave? They have these bad gut intuitions, but they're so scared. I mean, because you're leaving financial security, you're leaving like all of these things, and then what to do next, whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur or whether you want to get another corporate job.
I think if you can remain at your corporate job and start a side hustle, do it. Because I've also met people who have done that. It doesn't need to be all
No,
or
no.
nothing. In my case, I needed to be so desperate because also then it becomes like the golden handcuffs, right? And I think there's a very fine line, and only you know if you can manage both, and if you can give it your all to your little baby project, the side hustle, and then as you see it growing, then eventually you have to
Yeah.
unplug from the corporate security. And in my case, because Alex got fired and I quit because I didn't want to be there anyways, I had no choice. I mean, I could have always went back if I really needed to. I knew the right people and the right
Yeah.
connections. But having the desperation is always the fuel. You need to be desperate to a point to not sleep and get the work done. Because now that I'm a bit more, not a bit more, now that I have a lot more luxuries in my life, in terms of not having that desperation, I've had so many brilliant ideas where I'm like,
Yeah.
it's nice, but like my life is so
So,
good.
yeah.
Do I really need to, do
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
to go there and do that? And I think as I reflected on that, I always realized how the desperation is such an important element in the equation
Mm.
of whether you make it or not.
Yeah. You were 24 then when you met Alex.
No, we met, I was 21, 20 when we met,
Okay.
but we got married when he was 23, I was 24.
Okay.
And that's exactly when we started the business because I needed the hair extensions
Yeah.
for the wedding.
Okay.
So I wore them at the wedding.
Oh, this
And we
is so
launched literally like a month after the wedding.
cute. So now that you're not
Mhm.
24 anymore, though,
Mhm.
that
Just a couple
courage,
years
just
older.
the courage, but you're so young. I mean, you got married so, like, you did
Yeah.
have done so much
Yeah, I
stuff at
know.
such a young
I'm so
age.
grateful.
But it's so cool that you didn't come from this background of, having it accessible to you, right? Because it really shows to people that if you really put in the work ethic, that it works. But would you have made the same risks in your like early 30s or at 29, 30 that you did at 24, like leaving the job, starting the company, not having kids, like even if you didn't have kids yet?
I think so, absolutely. I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's more of connecting to the part of you that is ready to face the feeling
Yeah.
of like, that's enough.
Yeah.
That is it. Like, I'm going to go for it. Because the pain of not going for it is stronger than the pain of staying in the comfort zone. Does that make
that
sense?
makes so much sense.
Yeah, because in a way, that's what I've done now again on my current journey of like, let's say, separating from my co-founder Alex and my life partner for so many years. It's a different story, but it's also you can say that why would you do something when you have such a comfortable life and it works? It's like we have a great relationship, but something in me felt like I need to get out of this relationship to live my full potential of what it is that I desire. And it might not make a logical sense, but intuitively I know this is for my ultimate growth, and I don't know what's going to happen. And it's scary to start life all over again on your own. And there's so many things that come with that, like being a single parent, for example. That's intense. And even though it is scary and it's not easy, I feel the most alive I felt since probably the time when we started the business, first business.
Yeah, so that first one then you had before you sold it for how many years? 8?
So we had it for 8 years,
Okay.
then we sold it. And around the same time, actually a few years before that, so in 2000, and it was 2012, so 2013 actually, 2013, same year we moved to London, we started Intelligent Change.
The same year you sold the business, you started another one?
No. We sold Luxy here in 2018, but in 2013 we started Intelligent Change with our first product, which is the 5-minute journal that you mentioned when you started, which is, it was a tool that we created because when we first made our first million, you would think you're in your early 20s, married to the love of your life, now just made your first million, you can go anywhere, do anything, and out of a sudden it hit me. I became the most depressed and anxious I've ever been in my life. I've always had an underlying anxiety, I think, from the fact that I faced a lot of things in my formative years that were not like emotionally resolved and regulated. And the first time I felt safe was probably when I was in this healthy, secure relationship with my ex-partner, Alex. But I didn't know that at the time. So then we're making money. I have a perfect life on paper, and yet I'm super anxious and depressed, and I have all these panic attacks. How do I help myself? And two things that helped me on my journey from trying so many different things. One was meditation. I discovered this meditation called Vipassana meditation, and I did a 10-day, you go to the silent retreat. It's free. And if you complete the 10 days, then you can donate whatever you feel like you can.
So,
The first time I went, I ran away on day 3. Then I went back and I survived the 10 days. And it was the best thing I've done for myself. It really allowed me to face my fears in a safe place and know that I will be okay no matter what. And then what happened is, like, I was looking at other ways to have healthy habits and tools that can help me on my journey in life as I go through ups and downs that all of us face, the emotional ups and downs. And then gratitude, practicing daily gratitude was another tool. And that came more from, the inspiration was from Tony Robbins. I don't know if you heard of Tony
yeah,
Robbins.
of course.
So he's amazing. Some people don't like him, but I think he's helped millions of people break through their limiting beliefs. And this practice of hour of power that he recommends in the morning involves gratitude. And Alex and I used to do that even before we started our first business. And every morning we'd go on a walk and say all these things we're grateful for that we don't yet have. And then I remember my dad would call me and say, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, "I want a gratefulness walk." And
You're
then
like-
be like a long pause, and he would say, "I think you need to go get a job." But you know what? Later, he realized
so cute.
all of these things
Yeah,
are
they
your
were.
mindset is just as important
Yeah.
as the actions that you take. Because if you take all the right actions, you meet the love of your life, you get the right business opportunity or job opportunity, or you start your business, things are going well. Unless you change the subconscious mind, unless you program it, there's a high chance you're going to self-sabotage. And then even if you don't self-sabotage, eventually you'll hit that plateau. And there's a great book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. He talks about that a lot. We all have this capacity to which we allow ourselves to enjoy life, or how much money we allow ourselves to receive, how much love and opportunities or health, even, or physical health. And the moment we hit that ceiling, we tend to self-sabotage. So yeah, it's just the gratitude allowed for us to always daily practice this feeling of abundance that you can feel moment to moment. And when you come from abundance, you always attract the right people, opportunities. It's just you feel different. And when you feel different, you come off different, you're more relaxed. And everything just flows a little bit more. And that makes a huge difference in life.
Is it as simple as just writing, like to make yourself be grateful? Is it as simple as just writing, like, I'm grateful for every day? Because I have done that stuff and I don't always feel like in the moment I'm like, okay, I'm grateful. And then I go on and, like, you know, everything else starts and then I forget that stuff. And then I kind of get back sometimes in that negative cycle of
Absolutely.
yeah.
The subconscious mind takes over.
Yeah.
I think what we've done right with the 5-minute journal is that the structure has the morning portion and the evening portion. So you really want to anchor these habits in your morning routine and the night routine, ideally. First thing you wake up is the best time to do it because you're the closest to your subconscious mind and reprogramming it. So I always suggest for people, and the science backs it up. First thing in the morning, you wake up, you're still kind of sleepy, you're not fully awake. You know, so like grab the pen, have it right by your bedside table, start filling it out. A lot of my entries look like chicken scratch because I'm like literally half asleep, still drooling. And I'm writing down all these things that I feel like in this moment is my warm bed. It's knowing that I have a fridge full of food, like anything that it can be tiny. Like the fact that you can see. You know, I was talking to my daughter this morning because I saw this blind person that I see every morning walking like opposite to us as we go to school. And I said, like, how incredible we get to see every day. Like, she doesn't have that luxury. You know, you can complain all you want about your life, but even those small abilities to walk, to see, if that gets taken away, your whole life gets affected.
Of course.
So I think challenging yourself to write different things, it's really important. Because a lot of times people will start writing the same thing and then it becomes robotic. And you don't want it to just write it out of a habit. You want to really connect to that feeling of gratitude. So that's one. Then there's a portion in the morning, like 3 amazing things that will happen today. So again, it primes you to think of all the good things rather than your to-do list and like starting to feel overwhelmed first thing in the morning. Like, I need to do this, I need to do that. We all do that. You're thinking, what will bring joy into my day? Maybe it's the fact that you'll go to the gym and like you'll work out and you'll feel good in your body, because that's a way to show self-love to your body. Maybe you'll challenge yourself to smile to 5 strangers, right? Totally up to you. Change it up every single day. And then in the morning, there's a portion that is affirmations. And again, those can change based on what you want to feel and embody in that certain period of your life. I go into phases where I'll write the same thing for like 6 months until I become it. And then I switch it up. And then the evening portion that you do right before you go to sleep is reflection of the day. So 3 good things that happened today. And again, there's lots of studies that show if you try this, if you do this, not try, do, if you do this for 21 days, the overall health benefits of sleeping better, your relationship with yourself improves, your relationship with other people improve. It's so significant that even if you stopped after 21 days, you would still feel the benefits for months after. So to summarize, and then the last question is like, what did you learn today? But to summarize, I think the most important thing for anyone who struggles with these habits is that you don't need to do it every day. You don't need to be perfect. We all try to do things perfectly. And then when we fail, and we all will fail because none of us are perfect, we feel bad. Oh, well, I didn't do it. I guess now I can't do it anymore. No, you can. Pick it up at any point. Like, for example, I've been great at working out consistently. The last couple of weeks, my life has just been like on steroids, meetings back to back. So I've skipped more workouts than I have in like literally years. And part of me feels a little guilty, but then part of me knows that it's okay. I'll pick it up in a week. That's okay. Like, I see it. I'm not happy with it, that I'm not putting myself first. But life happens sometimes. And I have the power to change it when I decide. And even if I do just a 10-minute workout and just some squats on my break, it's still better than I do nothing.
Yeah.
Same with the gratitude. Like, if you do it twice a week, it's better than not doing it at all. Similar to the workouts, right? So I think that's something to keep in mind, is that really avoid that idea that you will be perfect. Because again, that's partly how we self-sabotage things in life.
How soon into starting the journal did you guys see, like, oh, this is going to be a big product, this is going to be successful?
Quite frankly, it took off right away, but I think it mainly took off for 2 reasons. I already had a social media presence from Luxy Hair, so that definitely helped fuel the business. And then we also gifted a copy to Tim Ferriss, who obviously was our inspiration. At the time, he was going through a bit of a dark period of his life. He just started his podcast as well at the time. And the journal really helped him on his journey of self-growth and self-development. And he's been using it ever since. He featured it in his book, Tools of Titans. He featured it on his podcast so many times. We never paid him anything.
How did you find him? Like, get in touch with him?
Oh, he was in Toronto at an event.
Got it.
Serendipity, right? Like, synchronicities in life. I don't believe anything is, an accident. Everything is meant to be the way it is. And we gifted him the journal, and we told him, like, he's actually in part of the dedication because he was our inspiration. And he started using it. He felt the benefits, and, he's been promoting it ever since. And we're so grateful to him, because that brought out a different demographic to our business, which is male demographic. For them, journaling and even admitting that they're doing some kind of a self-help, self-development work used to be such a taboo, whereas now so many men are very comfortable to talk about it, do it, and participate. And that makes me so happy, because we need men doing this work as much as we need women doing this work. And that's how it started. It really took off.
Yeah, I have one of the cards as well. What do you call these?
The Get Closer?
Yes.
I love that.
And I with my now ex-boyfriend, but I found, men, it's very hard for them to communicate. So, like, those things, even the retreat you had, I think now 2 weeks ago, there was a lot of guys in the room, and I think, like, being able to see a guy and that they are wanting to, like, be grateful and do a lot of these things that women do. What do you say to someone who's like, manifestation is like very woo-woo, or like, this is too out of the box for me to start this stuff?
I feel like I don't get that feedback frequently, but I know generally speaking, there will always be naysayers and people who will say, well, this doesn't work. And the truth is, there's enough science to back it up. Last year, I did a workshop on gratitude, so I had to actually research all the latest science that backs up gratitude. And it's not woo
No.
at all.
Yeah.
You know, the truth is, we talk about 5 minute journal like the toothbrush for your mind. If you don't use your toothbrush on your teeth, what's going to happen? Nothing will happen the first day, week, month, even, but eventually your tooth will decay. Same with your mind. If you don't have those healthy practices, you're just not at your full capacity, which is going to affect your mental health, is going to affect your physical health, and also going to affect your opportunities. Like you won't go after what you want because you're in a fear mode, you're in the scarcity mode. And I think what practicing gratitude, or we have another tool called the productivity planner, which helps you be more productive. I don't know if you've used that. Honestly, game changer.
Okay.
For anyone listening, obviously, your crowd is very entrepreneurial crowd. It is such a game changer that sometimes I have to admit I self sabotage where I don't use it
Got
for
it.
periods of time because I lose it or like something happens to it. It gets destroyed. Because when I do use it, my productivity is like
Really?
1,000 times
Okay.
more.
Okay.
1,000 times. Because
Yeah.
there's something about using that system, which is like facing the elephant in the room, like 3 to 5 things that you need to do today. Because we tend to like write a long list of things that we need to do and start with like the easiest but the most random one that we don't actually need to do today because it feels like it's the easiest. But in fact, if you start with the hardest, you don't need to do the whole thing, but like the phone call, the first email that you've been procrastinating to send, because it's just, again, it's all mental blocks because you often don't feel like you deserve that opportunity, or you're not good enough. But if you face that first, it like gives you the fuel then to do everything else. And then
Yeah.
often I'm in a place where I'm like, whoa, I did all of it and I have even more time and energy. Yeah, you're just more empowered.
So the first business was 8 years, and now Intelligent Change has been how many years?
11 years.
11, and you got separated to your still business partner
We are.
throughout this. How? I mean, it's like fascinating to me.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's shocked.
Why are people so shocked, and how do you handle it so well?
I think the old traditional narrative in general, if you're a couple, you break up, you hate each other, and you shouldn't talk to each other. The truth is, we don't need to believe any narratives we're sold. You can write your own narrative. That's not what happened to us. We're still incredible friends. We adore each other, we support each other, and we're there for each other. Now, we have had recent talks where, since we've been working for 14 years now,
So long, yeah.
we both came to a mutual agreement that we need to sort of eventually part our ways. And since I have a desire to work on so many other projects, I will be slowly, like I'll still be part of the business, but I will go into minority where I'll still do the fun things like the events, the workshops, because I really like that, the podcast, I really enjoy these things, and some product creation, but I won't need to be day to day with the business. And then I can focus on my own projects, which are super exciting to me. But we've managed up until now. I mean, now we've been separated for more than a year and we work really well just because you put your ego aside and you put your well-being first. Like you choose to be kind, you choose to be loving, and you choose to listen and communicate in the most honest and transparent way. And I think when you do that, there's no space for anything else in your relationship.
Do you feel like it was early communication building blocks that you guys had really nailed down to where you've been able to maintain the business now and like still be friends? Because you're right, people think divorce, they hate each other, the kids, the separation is awful. I've never seen two people get divorced and be like, I admire that.
You saw us on stage a week ago, like.
And you're the same on there that you are in here or off the camera or whatever.
Thank you for that. I think, yes, communication is the key to any great relationship, whether it's friendship, your relationship with your siblings or parents, your relation with your partner. And yet nobody teaches us how to communicate our feelings, emotions, how to be transparent, how to be honest, right? People lie all the time. I mean, we lie to ourselves. Yeah. What can we expect from another person? To be honest to us when they're lying to themselves? So I think it's the decision you have to make internally to do the inner work. and to allow yourself to face your fears. Because every time you'll have a difficult conversation, you're going to have to face a lot of fears. Like for me to decide that I will break up with my best friend and my partner of so many years was so scary, it was so painful. But ultimately, the main important decision is to be true to yourself and how you feel. And only you know how you feel. Nobody else knows how you feel on the inside. Your life can look perfect on the outside, but if it doesn't resonate, if it doesn't feel right on the inside, you're living a fake life. And many people live those kind of lives. And, that's why I think a lot of people are depressed. They're taking all these medications, they're um, drinking, they're taking drugs, they're finding ways to numb the truth that is doing its best to emerge. Like your body will give you signals, it'll give you anxiety, vertigo, panic attacks, like all kinds of things to wake you up and shake you up and be like, you are not aligned with your purpose, you're not aligned with your values, you're not aligned with your truth. But you have to do the inner work, you have to face your fears, you have to be courageous. And what's the other option? Is to get to your deathbed and realize you wasted your life. And most people regret, and this is statistically proven, the things that they haven't done rather than the things that they have done. Because even if you've done something and it was a mistake, you will learn so much in the process.
Yeah.
And nothing is the end of the world. That's what I've learned. Nothing. If you're kind, if you're, considerate, nothing's the end of the world. You just don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Be a kind human being.
Crazy how hard it is for some people, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how I operate. Of course, I can only speak from my personal experience, but it has worked for me, and I always encourage that for anyone that I communicate with as well.
What makes you fearless?
Knowing that I will die. And I think it's a very hard truth. It's a bit morbid, I know. But one of the biggest gifts I received from my grandfather is that I saw him die in front of me when I was 10. And he was my favorite. I had such a beautiful relationship with him. And seeing somebody you love so deeply at such a young age in front of you, just like that. He was not sick. He was super excited about life. He was 72, working. He just came back from America, and he's like, one day I'll take you girls. Me and my sister were in the room together when it happened. He's like, one day I'll take you girls there. He just got a new job that he was super excited about. And then we had lunch, and then he was gone.
What
just
happened?
Like that. I think he had a stroke.
Okay.
Yeah, heart attack or stroke. And just seeing that life is so fragile traumatized me, but then also has been a blessing, in disguise.
Yeah.
And that is what makes me fearless, because I know death is always by my side. But it doesn't, I used to be scared of that, and I had the worst relationship with the unknown. And then the last few years, I'm having this really beautiful dance with the unknown. And I think it's just realizing that we are all going to go. We don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
And this reality is so special. And while we're here, let's love. Let's tell people we love them, we love them. Let's hang out with the people, let's hug. Let's be and do our best in this very moment, because this very moment is the only thing we ever get. The future is not guaranteed. The past is long gone. There's no point dwelling in what happened. F that. What's the point? You're just leaking your energy.
Yeah.
So here right now, what can you do? Who can you be? Right? And I think this is what gives me power. It's that knowing that whether I have fears or not, I will die one day. And as much as I'm scared, I know that if I've done my best, really, if I connect to that feeling of death, I think what makes people scared of death the most is the idea that they haven't lived fully. And I know that if I've lived fully, when it comes, I'll be like, I had a good life.
You're iconic.
I had a good life. You know what?
Yeah, I know.
Give me a little more time, baby. Right? And I think
Yeah.
actually the people who are living fully, like death doesn't want to take them as well, because it's like life wants you to live, right? Like, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was a quote in a story that something along those lines, that death came to get someone, and like the person was having so much fun that it said, you know what, I'll come back later. right? Because we're here to live.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that is my main motivation. Um, because I think a lot of people die before they actually physically die. Like living a life that's not authentic to me is death.
Mm-hmm.
And again, anyone listening might be thinking of like, oh my God, but that's me. That is okay. Just face the truth and then commit to doing something about it. And you don't need to get divorced tomorrow or like change your whole life, but go deeper and ask yourself these questions like, what is the vision for myself in the next 5 to 10 years? And what are the steps? Then break it down into smaller actionable steps that you can take. And ask for help. I think also we forget sometimes the power of community. And oftentimes they say like loneliness is a pandemic
Yeah.
right now. But quite frankly, because again, I now have faced my fears of meeting new people, making new friends. Like I can't keep up with my new friendships. Like we met just about
Yeah.
3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
probably. Now we have all these plans to hang out, and it's not scary when you do it often, right? So get in the habit of connecting to people that light you up, that make you feel good, because these people are gonna root for you. They're gonna support you when you're down, and you're gonna support them when they're down. And this is what makes us live longer. I mean, research from all the blue zones in the world show that what makes the people live longer. Yes, the fresh air, all of that is wonderful, but it's actually knowing that you belong to a community. So I believe people choose to be lonely. It's a choice. It's a choice, and it comes out of fear. And it comes out of ego. You think nobody cares, I'm the only one, oh, I'm the victim. But the truth is, if you share your story, so many people will come to you and say, I feel the same way. Let's be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start a business together. Maybe you'll find your romantic partner. But ultimately, it's about, I mean, everything is about facing your fears. That's why you have such a brilliant name for your podcast, right? If you face your fear, life is all about facing fear. If you face your fear, you live. If you don't face your fear, you're in your comfort zone. You're existing. You've outgrown it, but you're scared to admit yourself that you have outgrown the shell, like a little crab, but stuck in this shell that is no longer serving you.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to leave the shell to go find a bigger shell.
Yeah.
But it's scary because when you leave the shell as a little crab, you're vulnerable, right? Like anything can happen to you. Like a crow can come and get you, like,
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's how we feel.
Yeah.
We're so vulnerable. We feel naked when we go through transition periods. Like even what I've been going through, right? I'm still in the process of going through it. And it feels so scary to leave your old identity. That is the shell that you've created. And leave your old identity and build this new shell, or find this new shell that you can live in. But that's what we're here. That's the ultimate experience of a human life.
Yeah.
Is to expand, is the evolution, right?
You make it sound so simple, and honestly, it really is. It's one thing that holds anyone back, which is the fear. But if you can conquer that, you can literally conquer everything. I could literally talk to you all day, but I know you have to go. So I will do an kind of outro at the end of this, after. But where can everyone find you, your projects on social media, online, etc.?
Yes, so I am on Instagram at Mimi Ikonn, MIMIIKONN. And then also check out our Intelligent Change Company, which helps people on their journey of self-actualization. And we have so many tools. We talked about some of them, but there's so many more tools that can help you in different areas of your life to expand and grow and be your best version.